speech, his speech. Dr. Shomali, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace be with you. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, I would like to start my talk first with thanking God the Almighty for giving me this opportunity to be with you and to share with you some of my ideas and thoughts about solidarity and unity. I would like also to thank the...
They cannot hear his microphone. Closer, only closer.
I would like also to thank the cultural section of the Iranian embassy for organizing this meeting and for inviting me. And also I would like to thank our dear panelists and all the audience for their contribution. What I try to share with you is an overall understanding of the Quranic perspective about human relations and how, according to the Quran, we have different grounds on which we can establish unity, but with different levels of strength and intensity. First of all, I talk about the Quranic perspective about what we share as human beings, and then I will mention the response that human beings give to this actual fact that God has created us as children of the same family, how we have responded differently to this fact, and then again how Islam is going to respond to the different responses that people have given to God's initial call for being one family. We have already touched upon some of the verses of the Quran, and I'm very happy that my colleague from the University of Aristotle has touched upon some of these verses. The Quran says in Surah Hujurat, as she said, that God has created us from one father and one mother. So not only our originator is the same, which by itself is enough to be united. If we are all created by the same God, this is enough to be united. But in addition to that, God is also mentioning another emotional fact, which is, of course, bringing biological, genetic, and lots of other similarities. And that is, we are also children of the same father and mother. So God could have created us without having the same origin, but He has created us actually from the same father and mother. So we feel that we are really, really cousins, we are really, really brothers and sisters of the same family. And He says the reason for this is not to make you fight each other. Unfortunately, we human beings, as soon as we see differences, we want to take it as a reason for disagreeing and then conflicting. But the Quranic perspective is quite different. If I today just make sure that this point is properly delivered, I think would be enough for me. That according to the Quran, differences are not to be taken as grounds for conflict. Differences are taken as grounds for giving people opportunity to establish different levels of unity. For example, imagine we are all Greek and we come from different towns of Greece. We can have two approaches. One is that I say I come from this town, so I don't bother about the rest of the country. I only want everything for people of my own town. Then other people from other towns can say the same thing. Then we end up with having a country which is divided. But on the other hand, what we can say is that I come from this town, I have solidarity with the people of my town, I feel very united with the people of my town, I want to do everything to improve my town, but then with other towns we want to improve our own nation, our own country. So there can be two different approaches. Different towns working against each other and then damaging the country, or different towns improving their own towns but then building a united country on that. So we come from different colors, different nations, different languages. We can use this as an excuse to fight each other. Or we can use this as an excuse to first establish unity among ourselves. All the black people, all the white people, all the Arabic-speaking people, Greek-speaking people, they can work towards their unity, but then instead of being exclusive, make it inclusive. So we make unity among ourselves, then we invite other people to join us. I remember I was giving a talk in American Academy of Religion a few years ago, and after I talked about Muslim-Christian dialogue, a lady came to me, and she said, I am worried. When you talk about unity of Muslims and Christians, I am worried, because then you are going to be united against us. I didn't ask what faith she had, or maybe she had no faith, or maybe she had a particular faith. She thought that unity of Muslims and Christians is a challenge, is a threat. And I said, no, this is not my understanding of unity. When we talk about Muslims and Christians being united, we don't want to work against anyone. We want to be united for the service to humanity. In the same way that when we say Sunni and Shia are to be united, Muslims are to be united, we don't want to get united against Jews or Christians. We want to get united so that we can work together for the betterment of the rest of humanity. Then I mentioned this example. I think it is a very simple example, but meaningful. If you throw a stone into a river, you see that different circles will take place. These circles, when they go farther from the center, they become larger and larger. But then they become weaker and weaker. No water is excluded. You can grow and grow and grow and include every drop of water. But when you go closer to the center, you have a stronger unity. So we start having unity with the people that we have the greatest amount of similarity. I don't expect, for example, my Orthodox friends to have the same amount of unity that they have among themselves with their Muslim friends. For sure, they should be more united. But that unity must not be excluding Muslims. That unity must not be against Muslims or against other denominations of the church. Like, for example, if, say, we are Iranian community, for example, in Greece. We have, different, for example, families here. How can we get Iranian community here very established and united and therefore successful? Do we need to say, forget your family ties, forget that this man is your father or mother or brother or sister or cousin or uncle and aunt, and just think of being Iranian? Or no, we can say first start with establish unity inside your family. This man is your father, this man is your brother, this man is your cousin. Then when you establish this unity in the family and then the extended family, then you can have all Iranians united. So God the Almighty says that the reason He has created us in different nations and with different colors and different genders is so that we use this as a means to know each other better, so that we can better establish relations between ourselves. But unfortunately, we got it wrong. What was supposed to serve as a basis for unity, we took it as a basis for conflict. And say that I am white, I am better, or I am black, I am better. Any kind of, racism. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Inna an-nas min ahd Adam ila yawmina hadha, mislu asnan al-musht." All human beings, from the time of Adam and Eve up to now, they are like teeth of the comb. We have one comb, different teeth. لا فضل للعربية على العجمي ولا للأحمر على الأسود. In the world that slavery was very common, in the world that even philosophers were justifying slavery, unfortunately some of the people that we respect a lot, in their books, I don't want to mention, they justified slavery. But in that world, the Prophet said, there is no merit, no privilege for any person based on his ethnic background. Whether you are Arab or non-Arab, whether you are black or red or white, there is no merit. إِلَّا بِالتَّقْوَى, except through piety. Because piety is something that I can acquire. I cannot change my color of face. So this is not fair that I am given a privilege or I am denied of some privilege because of something that I have no control over. But piety, to be virtuous, is something that everyone has control. Also, Prophet in another occasion said, Ya ayyuhan nas, inna rabbakum wahid, wa inna abakum wahid. This is not only for Muslims. Ayyuhan nas, O mankind. This is very open invitation. Your Lord is the same. Your Father is the same. Kullukum la Adam. You all belong to one Father. Wa Adamu min turab. And Adam is made from the clay. Akramukum indallah atqakum. The most honorable among you is the most pious. Imam Ali alayhi salam, in his instruction to Malik Ashtar, Imam Ali, the first Imam of the Shia Muslim, but the first Caliph for all Muslims, the brother of the Prophet, the son-in-law of the Prophet, the cousin of the Prophet, in his instruction to his newly appointed governor of Egypt, Malik Ashtar, he said very beautifully, أشعر قلبك الرحمة بالرعية. Make your heart able to feel mercifulness and tenderness for the people. As a governor, my first expectation is not to collect tax from people or to bring discipline. My first expectation is to show love to people. If you can show love to people, then they themselves will contribute. They offer what they can. وَالْمَحَبَّةَ لَهُمْ, love, tenderness, وَالْلُطْفِ, to be very gentle with them. وَلَا تَكُونَنَّ عَلَيْهِمْ سَبُعًا ضَارِيًا, do not be like a wild animal. Imam is telling his governor, don't act like a wild animal. I am sending you as a human being, and what I expect from you as a human being is to show love, not to be aggressive. And then Imam said, فَإِنَّهُمْ سِنْفَانِ, people are one of the two groups. إِمَّا أَخٌ لَكَ فِي الدِّينِ أَوْ نَذِيرٌ لَكَ فِي الْخَلْقِ. Either he's a brother in faith or similar to you in creation. When you go to Egypt, you would see Muslims or non-Muslims. But you have good reason for showing love to both of them. Those who are Muslims are your fellow brothers and sisters in Islam. Those who are not Muslim are your fellow brothers and sisters in humanity. You have to be kind with them. And when Imam heard that people of Sham, the people of what we call today Syria, they attacked part of the Muslim world, and they unfortunately didn't observe, although they were Muslims, they didn't observe Islamic manners. They mistreated ladies. They didn't kill them, but they harassed them, and they took their jewelries from them. He said such a strong statement. He said, فَلَوْ أَنَّ امْرَأً مُسْلِمًا مَاتَ مِن دُونَ هَذَا أَسَفًا مَا كَانَ عِنْدِي مَلُومًا. He said, if a Muslim hears this news that a woman, Muslim or mu'ahada, a Jewish lady, was denied of her jewelries, if a Muslim hears this and he dies out of sorrow, I would not blame him. Indeed, I would praise him. When he hears such a bad news that a Muslim or a Jewish lady It's not a matter of, being Muslim or not Muslim. People should be treated with respect. So, this is the invitation. But unfortunately, in the course of history, we don't find that people, respond to divine call, or to the call of the Prophet and holy leaders. So, I thought maybe I can classify different categories or different types of people and what we should do with respect to them in this way. Of course, this may not be something that everyone agrees with me, but I don't see any reason why there cannot be agreement. According to the Quran, there are people who just disagree with you. There are people who show hostility to you. These are different. Unfortunately, many people, as soon as someone is not with them, they say he's against us and he's our enemy. But this is not Islamic understanding. I start first with the enemies, and then I will talk about the people with whom we have disagreements. And you see that how solidarity can be shown in different levels, of course, with different strengths. When it comes to the people who show enmity, these are the people that they want to harm you. These are the people that they want to fight you. They want to deprive you from your basic rights. Still, Islam says your approach must not be like them. First of all, you have to observe justice all the time. You cannot say, this man is trying to kill me, so I deprive him from his rights. No. The Quran says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kunu qawwamina lillah shuhada'a bil qist. O people who have faith, you must always stand for justice and be witnesses for the truth. La yajrimannakum shana'anu qawmin ala alla ta'dilu. I'dilu huwa aqrabu lit-taqwa. Do not let your hostility towards some people make you unjust. It's very important, it's easy to say but difficult to practice. If someone has killed my father or my children, Quran says you don't have right to mistreat him. You cannot say, okay, now I want to harm his family. I want to, for example, create problem for his children. No. You cannot do anything more than justice. Even in many cases, as I will say, you can forgive that person. But for sure, nothing unjust should happen. The second thing is, the Quran says, as much as possible, not only try to avoid injustice, try to react by showing good manner to that person. For example, the Quran says in chapter 23, verse 96, Idfa' billati hiya ahsanus sayyi'ah. When someone has done bad to you, someone has wronged you, react by doing the best. Not only the good, the best. We find in the course of the history, there were people who, for example, were swearing at imams, and imams, instead of swearing back, they were offering them help. For example, we have this example that a man went to Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, the grandson of the Prophet, and started saying bad things to him because he was brainwashed. He said many bad things to Imam. And for Imam was easy just to remain silent, and some people, then would fight that person. When you are a holy person and you have lots of, followers, and a person comes and insults you, if you just remain silent, people, react. But Imam didn't keep silent and didn't let anyone to interfere. Without asking that person why you are saying such things, he said, it seems that you are not a person from this town. Have you come from a far place? Can I offer you a shelter, food, drink? So by reacting in this way, then that person all of a sudden lost all the stereotypes, all the prejudice that he had in mind. And he said, I bear witness that you are son of the prophet. And I'm sorry that I didn't know these beautiful virtues about you. So, idfa means react, counteract, bil ahsan, with the thing which is the best. Or for example, God says, this is also a very important verse in the Quran, verse 34 of chapter 41. وَلَا تَسْتَوِي الْحَسَنَةُ وَلَا السَّيِّئَةُ. Good and bad are not the same. Those who do bad things and those who do good things are not the same. ادفع بالتي هي أحسن. When someone does bad to you, you should respond by doing the best. فَإِذَا الَّذِي بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَهُ عَدَاوَةٌ كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ. Then the one who feels hostile towards you becomes your close friend. Unfortunately, sometimes we fail even to practice this in our families. Sometimes husband and wife, stop talking to each other, stop, showing love to each other. Sometimes parents and children, sometimes neighbors. But for sure, when we have different religions, we give ourselves all the right to use this as a means to justify our bad behavior. We are just looking for excuses. Otherwise, as my friend said, because I am worried that I may mispronounce your name, so I'm just saying my friend, and I hope you accept this.
It's very good name.
Yes. So, unfortunately, when God is not dwelling in us, then we do whatever we want, we give different names. Sometimes we give the name of nationalism, sometimes we give the name of religion, sometimes we give the name of parties, but it's the same thing. All is being, unfortunately, free from love and commitment and devotion to God. Another thing that the Quran tells us is that if there are people who disagree with you, they are not enemies, they are not fighting, they are just different from you. They can be people of no faith background, they can be infidels, they can be people who have faith in God, they can be people of the same religion but from different denominations. So there are different categories. With respect to people who have no faith, they are not your enemies. The Quran says, invite them for talk, invite them for discussion. And look at the language of the Quran. God says to the Prophet, when you want to have discussion with these people, don't think that because you are sent by God, then you should have upper hand in discussion. قُلْ إِنَّا أَوْ إِيَّاكُمْ لَعَلَى هُدًى أَوْ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. I wish everyone knew Arabic, because Arabic is such a sweet language, although it's not my mother tongue, but it's such a sweet language that it's very difficult to translate. God says, tell them, either us or you are guided or we have gone astray. Look at this language which invites everyone to engage. God doesn't say tell the infidels, you are misguided, but we are ready to talk. No. Tell them, either us or you are guided or have gone astray. Even it was enough to say, we are guided or have gone astray. But it says, Enna aw iyyakum la'ala hudan aw fi zalalin mubin. It means that we don't claim anything before discussion. We don't want any precondition. We are ready to engage. And if the discourse proves not successful, at the end, in another place, God says, Lakum dinukum waliyadin. You have your own way of life, I have my own way of life. There is no reason to fight. This is with the people that have no faith. But when it comes to the people who have faith, when it comes to the people of the book, when it comes to Jews and Christians, it's much more different. We have much more grounds for dialogue. We have much more grounds for working together. One of the sad things is that unfortunately, there are people that love us Muslims and Christians fight so that they can use this as an argument against all of us. They say, look, every problem that we have in the world is caused by religion. Look at for example, what Nazis did. They were, some Christians. Look at what Muslims did. Look at, what Jews did. So it's better to get rid of all religions so that we have no war, no conflict. This is an argument that some people, develop and advocate. But this is wrong. It's not that religion is causing this. People misuse different things. They can misuse religion, they can misuse science, they can misuse freedom, they can misuse even democracy to provoke war. So it's not religion, it's the problem with human when he is not purified. So when it comes to the people of the book, the Quran says, قُلْ يَا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ تَعَالَوْا إِلَىٰ كَلِمَةٍ سَوَاءٍ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكُمْ أَلَّا نَعْبُدَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ وَلَا نُشْرِكَ بِهِ شَيْئًا. O people of the book, come and let us talk about what we share. The call for dialogue is not something that we have learned in the 20th century. The call for dialogue is something that is a Quranic principle. And sometimes I say to my friends, when we have dialogue, I say, I as a Muslim look at interfaith dialogue as a religious obligation. It's not a fashion. Some people nowadays do dialogue because it has become a fashion. But this is not a fashion. This is an obligation. In the same way that you have to pray and fast, you have to work for dialogue. And in the same way that you don't make your prayer and fasting conditional upon receiving good response from people, you have to get involved in dialogue without expecting any response. I shouldn't say, I do dialogue if people show openness to me. I do dialogue if people reciprocate. No. Can you say I pray when people, show love and respect to me? No. You have to pray in all circumstances. As a Muslim, as a believer in God, we have to work for dialogue no matter whether we receive good response or not. And what is amazing, and my experience of about 15 years of dialogue shows that if with such approach you go for dialogue, if with openness, sincerity, and without expecting anything you go for dialogue, you will always get good response. I have never, been disappointed by my Muslim brothers and sisters from other schools of Islam or my Christian friends or people from other faiths when we had sincere and honest dialogue. Always you find love that you offer comes back to you if you do it without expectation. So, with respect to the people of the book, the Quran's call for dialogue is very clear. With the Muslims from different schools of Islam, it's very clear. Unfortunately, as we heard, sometimes people don't practice what they know. But I think still we have to invest on education. I find that there is great benefit in having these talks in different levels. It can be in academic level, it can be in religious gatherings. We have to educate people. Even those people who don't want to follow their own religious instruction for love, for solidarity, for fraternity, they need education. There is a beautiful example. One of Iranian's ministers, or prime ministers, at that time they didn't have prime minister and minister, but like a minister. He, for the first time, introduced to Iranian nation the immunization, vaccination. Then he received reports that some people don't welcome. It's more than 100 years ago. He said, some people, unfortunately, when we give them the chance to use this, they don't come. Then they become blind, and different problems. So he was very sad. His assistant told him, don't worry, you have done your best. You have brought this system, this health service to people. They don't want to take it, so you are not responsible. Don't worry. Then he said, who is responsible for them not showing interest in their own health? This is our education system, and I am responsible for that too. So, we have to invest on education. We have to make sure that people have proper understanding of their own faith, because unfortunately there are misreading and mispresentation of different faiths. And if this proper understanding is presented, and at the same time, if people of goodwill from different religious backgrounds work together and offer their testimony for this love, this brotherhood, I think other people would be interested. We Muslims and Christians have great responsibility to work together and say to the people who have no faith, to people who don't believe in God, look at the beauty of faith. Look at the way that religion has united us and has made us more successful in our life. I am grateful for your attention, and I'm sorry if I had to rush in my talk, if I couldn't make things clear, but very much grateful to you, and very much also I hope that in this beautiful historical ancient country of Greece we can have a very good example of solidarity and unity between all people from different religious backgrounds, and in particular Muslims and Christians. We hope that Greek become a very good example, as it is a good example in many other areas for this. So we have great respect and appreciation for Greek culture, and as I receive this respect for my culture and nation, I want to also say that people of Iran have great memory of Greece, and right from the childhood we grow up with learning stories about Greece, and especially when we go to university and we study philosophy. So we are always, remembering the great heritage of Greece, and we hope that Greece would always be a country which is supported by God and by the people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shomali. We actually we are behind our schedule, but because we started